I'm Managing Director of Entrepreneurship at UCSF. And for those of you who don't know UCSF well, I'm going to tell you a little bit about us. If I can get my slides to go forward. There we go. So this is what we're going to cover tonight. I'm going to talk about who we are, who are putting this class on, and then why this class. I have a lot of details about this class that I'll share with you. And I really want to encourage you to ask questions in the chat, and we'll stop and call on you because this is meant to be an interactive session. And then we have a treat at the end of this, which is a former student who is actually the Vice Chair of Emergency Medicine at a UCSF affiliated hospital, the San Francisco General Hospital, Malini Singh. Hi, Malini, I see that you were on the screen. So thanks so much for being here. She just got off her clinical rotation half an hour ago. So I'm very appreciative that she joined us. And she'll share her perspectives on the course. So please do chat with us, and we really want to get to know who's here and ask questions. Just keep asking questions. Maybe if you're from not the Bay Area, put it in the chat where you're from, other parts of the United States or Canada, Mexico, whatever. We'd love to see that. I would appreciate if you could keep your cameras on, because looking at a room full of black boxes is really not a lot of fun for those of us who present. So if you've been on Zoom a lot, you know what I'm talking about. Great, so let me describe a bit about UCSF if you don't know us. We are a leader in clinical medicine and research, and our better known sister school is Berkeley. We're part of the University of California system, as is Berkeley, but we're very specialized. We're just a graduate school, and we only do life science and healthcare. So we have the #2 medical school in primary care. We're #4 ranked in research in the medical school. We are the 15th best global graduate school. So that's global rankings. And we're the top public university for National Institutes of Health funding. So we really have tremendous scientific research and clinical care at this university. And this is our campus, our new campus in Mission Bay. And we don't go there very much these days under COVID, but it's a really great place to go work. So Silicon Valley, we are still #1 in the world. We are the fastest growing life science cluster. There's always competition between us and Boston, but when you look at the data, we beat them. So it's great to be here in the epicenter of an ecosystem that is really very focused on entrepreneurship in the life science healthcare world. So my entrepreneurship program at UCSF is about training and company creation. Over a 5-year period, we helped to start 40 companies that raised in aggregate $750 million, some from venture capital, some from angels, some from government grants. We have a very big investor network in Silicon Valley and wonderful industry mentors, many of whom help with this class, and I'll tell you more about them in a little bit. So my pandemic project was to launch this global course. And the great thing is it actually launched in 4 different continents. We've had 13 countries participate. In our first cohort, we had 113 students. In our second, we had 110 students. And this happened all within a few months. So we launched in June, and by September, we had 113 students in 13 countries. So this has created a really nice network for people who are part of this class. So how are we different? There are lots of entrepreneurship classes out there, but there aren't very many that have a life science and healthcare focus. And that's where we're from. That's who we are, and that's what this class is about. We also have a lot of people from UCSF represented in the class, and they make for great participants, and also will help build the network. This time, we have a lot of faculty, and this time we're also including our postdocs and residents. So it's a nice contingent. And this is a global network. So global and online, this is something that really started only a year ago. And we're unique in that we have this great network. I'm having trouble getting my slide to forward, so hang on. No, I didn't want to do this. Okay. So why take this entrepreneurship class? You know, people have lots of different reasons for taking the class. Some people are working on a startup, or they're thinking about working on a startup. And so that's a pretty obvious match. There are other people who don't come from here, the Bay Area and Silicon Valley, who just want to understand if what they're doing is what we would be doing as the top ecosystem. So they benchmark on us, and people have come away and said, geez, great, we're actually doing a whole bunch of things that Silicon Valley does. And so that helps them understand if they've got the right resources. Some people are just interested in early stage ventures for whatever reason. And often those are investors who are curious, maybe investors from other parts of the country or the world, who want to understand how we put these early stage ventures together. Others want to build a global network, and this class has been very successful in doing that. Maybe tap into innovation thinking. So, you know, when you're sitting out in a big corporation in Japan or in Delaware or wherever, it's often not very innovative, and the thinking out here in the Valley puts you in touch with how to innovate. And then some people are just new to healthcare and they want to learn how it all works. And I'm sure there are other reasons that aren't on this list, but these are some of the reasons from people who have been part of the class in the past. So who takes this class? Well, it's quite a variety of people. Entrepreneurs, academics, clinicians and researchers, investors who are trying to learn this sector, people who are part of the ecosystem in some way, corporate managers who just want to get out of their big corporate mindset, tech transfer executives, advisors and consultants in the startup world, government ministries, accelerator and incubator leads, and many more. So the objectives of this class are to determine if your idea is a commercial opportunity. And this is something when you're working in the deep science or clinical arena, you often don't think about this, that the business is really as important as the science, maybe more so, because if there's no business opportunity, you're not going to be able to get funded. Another objective is to learn the key elements of a business plan. So what is it that you have to include in your plan? And we're not talking about a 20 or 30 page written document, that's long gone. Just what are the things you need to think about? And then learn investor criteria, because the investors are your market in the very beginning of one of these companies. Unless maybe digital health, but that's another case. So our emphasis is on high impact scalable startups in the field. And I present with you with two examples of that. Moderna was a raw startup about 10 years ago, and they were funded by venture capital. They were working in an area that nobody really understood, this mRNA, which we now know a great deal about. And over the years, they were able to build out their science, reduce it to practice, and de-risk it to the point where they were able to show clinical proof that this thing worked. And BioNTech, which is the Pfizer deal, BioNTech is also a startup. They were a startup in Europe, and same sort of story. And they partnered with Pfizer along the way, and we know what the rest is. So what do we want to do through this class? We would like to teach you what you need to do to create a high impact scalable startup. Okay, so now I'm going to talk a little bit about the class. And again, please stop me. I don't know, is there anything in the chat? guys? Anil? No, not yet. Okay, please stop with questions. So we know that most of you are busy professionals, and we've tried to schedule this so that it would be work friendly. The classes are both live and videoed, so you might not be able to make all the classes live, but the video covers you. You can pick it up on the weekend or at night or sometime that's convenient. The baseline, sort of maybe the most important element, are the Wednesday lectures, and they're 1.5 hours long for 10 weeks. And each one has an expert from Silicon Valley as a guest lecturer. Then there are all these other elements that are going to help you meet your classmates, make connections, and get more engaged. And I'll speak about each of those. But the list is sector forums, study groups, office hours, and then there's readings. So you might want to do it all. You might want to do some of each thing. You might want to do just the lectures and maybe not even all of them, but the schedule is meant to work for you. And people always ask me, well, how much time am I supposed to spend? And there is no formula for this. You spend what you can. And I'll give you an example. I'm sure Malini, who's our alum, can talk about this as well. She's got a very, very busy clinical and management job, and she couldn't make it to every lecture. We also had the chief of orthopedic surgery from UCSF in our last cohort. And he came to maybe 4 or 5 lectures. He went to a few groups, and he watched all the lectures over on his vacation on weekends. So you can do this any way you want to. The 10-week program, starting September 29th. And again, it's live and recorded. Time alternates because we have people in different time zones. So the lectures sometimes are at 9 a.m., sometimes at 5 p.m. in Pacific, and they're on Wednesdays. So you can schedule. You may be able to, if you're in Europe, and I don't think we have any Europeans on tonight, this is too late for them. You know, it's the middle of their night. And so they'll watch the video, and then they'll come live to the 9 a.m. So the Silicon Valley guest lectures are from a variety of people. Does anyone recognize this man in the box? If you recognize him, put it in the chat. Do we have any answers? Anything in the chat? Anyone know who he is? Yes, no?
Arash said Steve Blank.
Okay, where is it, Arash? How do you know this man, Arash? Arash, I can't see you. Can you unmute?
He responded in text saying, I took the other course.
Oh, he took the other course, okay. Well, Steve Blank is a pretty famous guy. He's known globally for for just explaining that small startups are not small versions of large corporations. And so he is going to be participating in our class. Guest lecturers, venture capitalists, angel investors, startup founders. We have serial entrepreneurs and founders who are doing it for the first time. We've got a top IP attorney from a major law firm in Silicon Valley. He's going to be talking about how to protect your intellectual property. We have an executive from J&J who is talking about partnering, which is really important for some types of startups in our field. And we have FDA regulatory consultants and a reimbursement consultant. So lots of different kinds of people to learn from. What are we going to talk about? Well, these are the topics. Opportunity assessment is, how do you know if your idea actually could be a commercial opportunity? This is the kind of thing that I find scientists and clinicians just miss. They don't know that this is important. They think that they've got this fabulous technology or science and everyone's going to want it. But that's not the story when you're running a business. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about business models and what are the different models that are possible in our field. So there's not one thing you have to do if you start a business. Team building, the team is extremely important. in a startup, and it's extremely important for investors. So how do you build a good team? What is a good team? Where do you find people? That's going to be that topic. And we have a woman who does executive search for venture capitalists, talking about what she looks for. Intellectual property, I just mentioned there's an attorney from Wilson Sonsini, which is a major Silicon Valley firm. And then clinical regulatory, if you're going to go through the FDA process, you need to understand how that all works. What are clinical trials like? What hoops do you have to jump through to get through the FDA process? And we know that not everybody is in the United States, and therefore they're not all going to go through FDA, but FDA is a world standard. So if you understand how they work, you're going to understand the requirements in other countries as well. Reimbursement, big topic here. Who's going to pay? It's almost never the patient, unless maybe for facelifts. And it's not the doctor. So how does that work? And how do you get somebody to pay? Because if you can't get your product or service paid for, you're probably not going to sell very much of it. And then we'll talk about investment. We'll take two perspectives. One is angel investment. Angels are individuals who invest earlier typically than venture capital does. They have very different dynamics, very different types of funding. And then venture capital, which everyone, of course, has heard of. Well, how exactly does it work? What do they look for? What are their economics like? What's important to them to make an investment? And how long does it take? How do you approach them? We have venture capitalists who are going to come and tell you all that from the inside. Then we have a lecture on partnering, and that's the pharmaceutical executive from J&J, and also a woman who is an expert in digital health and has partnered in the digital health world. So we try to cover all the different sectors as we talk through these things. And we have stories from individual entrepreneurs. And the last lecture will be by an extremely well-known woman in Silicon Valley who was the head of DE Healthcare and has been on many, many boards and is a very recognized person. She's going to talk about how this all ties together. So that is the outline for what we're going to cover over the 10 weeks. I'm going to pause here for questions. Anything, guys? Got my watchers, my chat watchers. Oh, wait, I see something. Chat, I can actually see it. Yeah, Valentine, you're right. Steve Blank is the lean launchpad guy, and Aras, so you guys do know him. I'm pretty excited that he's going to come and talk to us about customer discovery. And I'm seeing, yeah.
Sorry, Stephanie, I do have a question. I'd like to ask which other presenters are going to be present in this course throughout the program?
Which other presenters? Sorry, I'm not sure I understand. Besides the guest lecturers?
No, who are the guest lecturers? So you mentioned Steve Blank will be there. Who else, like known names within the Silicon Valley ecosystem? Would you...
Yeah, I haven't laid all that out here, and it's a really good question. But people, some of them are really well known. Some of them are less known, but terrific at teaching and particularly plugged in. So probably not a good place for me to try to run through the list. Venture capital, I can tell you, we have Novartis Venture Fund coming.
Oh, wow.
And a fairly new fund called, well, I don't know if they're new, they've got a couple of $1 billion under management that somebody that I know from who was with Norwest Ventures just moved over to it. And one of the people who's going to be running the one of the fundraising groups is the founder of Life Science Angels, which is probably the major life science healthcare fund in the country. So, many people.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you so
Yeah.
much, Stephanie. I appreciate that.
Of course. Thanks for the question. All right. I'm going to move my slide. Sometimes it sticks. I don't get it. Okay. All right. So just a few quotes from people who took the class, the last cohort. This is Tad Vale, who's chair of orthopedic surgery. He really liked the speakers. Brent Sugimoto is with a startup company, and he said, "Boy, I wish I'd known about this before I signed on to these guys." So a lot of good information there. And then Shravan, who is with a mid-sized company, Sangamo, maybe they're larger than mid-sized. Anyway, he's a manager, director of clinical science, and he just felt like he learned so much that would enhance him doing his job at Sangamo, as well as other interests that he has. So we talked a bit about the mentors before. Mentors get inserted into our sector forums, and some of the biggest value that people get from this class is from the mentors. They feel like, because you can have conversations with them in a small group, and they learn so much. So these mentors are serial entrepreneurs, they're pharmaceutical executives and investors, board directors and consultants. And so they come from all kinds of different backgrounds. Some of them are expert in medical devices, some in diagnostics, some in therapeutics, some in digital health. We match them with the appropriate sector forum. So a sector forum means that it's a chance for you to split into the topic that you're most interested in. Maybe you have a therapeutics company or idea, or you're just interested in therapeutics, and go to this therapeutics sector. So that's the chance to talk to other people with that interest, and some mentors who are also from that sector. So in addition to sector forums, which I think I'm going to come back to in another slide, there are bi-weekly study groups, and study groups, there are 3 of them, are focused on topics. So the 3 topics this cohort are team building, fundraising, and startup war stories. And I don't know if any of you recognize any of these pictures, but in the right-hand side, Ed Hurwitz is a venture capitalist. Brian Feth, who's got the beard, is the CEO, founder of Excel Biosciences. Tara coaches, you may or may not know, she runs an executive search firm. So she's building teams, and she's really terrific. She did this last time. And then Ranjan Nag is out of he runs the MIT Angels, and also does many other things. He has his own fund as well. So these are the quality of the people that you'll meet in these, again, small groups, chance to build relationships and with your classmates, and to interact with these people. Then the sector forums, as I started to explain, cut across the different sectors, so that now you can be in a small group of people with similar interests to you. And the mentors who join those sector forums are experts in that field. And then one of the things I really enjoy doing is office hours. So they're usually on Tuesdays, but not always. They're one-on-ones with me, and you can talk about anything, about your idea, about your company, about a problem you're having with your co-founder, about your career. It's just an open discussion, and it's a really great way to make another connection. And then we're very conscious that the network is important to people who take this class. And so we've done a few things besides the small groups to introduce you to each other. We've set up Slack for class communication. So that's a way you can just go back and forth easily with your classmates and with the teaching team. We've also done a couple of mixers with alumni from the other cohorts. And then we've set up a LinkedIn group, and a picture of that is on the slide. So It really is what you make of it. If networking is important to you, and one of our alums was on this call right now. Okay, Mark, I'm going to call on you. Mark Stoner is an expert at doing this. He has made so many connections. Do you want to say something, Mark?
Yeah, I'm working on a biotech marketplace connecting investors, companies, and so forth. So, I mean, the network was important for me, but I started last fall. My background's tech consulting, so I had really no background in life sciences. So I was a little worried about that, but made a lot of contacts, made some new friends. And it's a great network, and it's not just domestic, as Stephanie mentioned, it's international. So I'm going to Paris next week or 2 weeks, going to meet with somebody there from the class, and it's great.
I'm so jealous. I want to go to Paris too. Maybe next year. Thanks for that, Mark. I just yesterday went through some of the evaluations to see what, we ask everybody, what did you like about the class? And these are some answers from this last cohort. And I mean, there are many more answers. We're just stunned by how valuable people find this. Here's one: the amazingly complete package of diverse and complementary sources to enrich our learning opportunity. This course exposed me to a new world and triggered me to think new possibilities. It really is mind expanding. And then great networking opportunities and great overview lectures. I really learned a lot. So that's just a sampling of what some people said. I love this statistic. 94% said they'd recommend the class, for sure. And then basically the rest of them said, maybe if I knew people who were interested in doing a startup. So, we basically gave everybody pretty much what they needed in the class. This cohort, for the first time, we've set up alumni country ambassadors. And those of you who are here from Mexico, maybe you were contacted by Gabriel Del Rio, who's at UNAM as a professor. We have country ambassadors in Ireland, in Canada, in the Netherlands, in the UK, in France, and Spain. And it's really a great way for us to expand in the ecosystem. We have great advisors, people who have very significant positions in this community. The head of the Innovation Center from Bayer here in the West Coast, Alan May, who is chairman of Life Science Angels, who started the group. Dave Morris is Novartis Venture Fund. Bernard Fallon, who is with the International Industry Organization, it's called Biotechnology Innovation Organization. And Carolina Garcia Rizzo, who's an advisor to the European Commission and a business person who's worked for several big companies. And we also have lots of partners. Very pleased to have them on board. And then just to review some key facts. 10-week class, 1.5 hours a week. You can absorb it virtually or live. We start at the end of September, so just about a month from now. The online lectures are live and virtual. The small groups are only live. And we're sensitive to time zones and have tried to set up a schedule that allows people from different continents to join us. We record all the lectures. You can spend as much or as little time as you want. We've got over 200 people in the alumni network now and are looking for another great cohort here. And the tuition is very reasonable as these courses go, so it's $11.50. This is our website for information, and this is our class picture. So we'd like you to join us. And I'm going to stop there and let's take some questions. I bet I could pull up the chat now. Anyone have a question?
Hi, Stephanie. Yeah, sorry, it's me again.
Hi, Valentin. And where are you? Are you here in the Bay Area?
No, unfortunately, I'm in Canada, in the
Ah.
Greater Toronto
Oh,
area.
great. Yeah, yeah. Right, exactly. Okay. Yes, Valentin, what can I
Yeah,
do
so
for you?
yeah, I just wanted to double check. Was it 1150 that you said is per
Yes.
course? And
Mhm.
that's US, right?
Oh, yes, yes.
Yes.
Thank you for correct. It's not very global of me to just assume everyone knows it's US. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
I'll change that slide. Thank you. Yeah, yeah. Any questions from our Mexicans? Very silent. Okay, how about from anyone else? Who's from someplace in the United States besides the Bay Area? Come on, be brave. Everybody's from the Bay? Okay, where are you from? Sydney, where are you from?
I'm working with Valentin actually. So we're in London, Ontario.
Excellent. Okay, glad to have you here.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Okay, thanks. Jeffrey, where are you from?
I work with Sydney as well.
I'm getting all the Canadians.
And with me as well too.
I'm gonna go down again the row what I can see. How about Sinju? Are you Canadian?
No. I'm from New York.
You're from where? I can't hear you. Can anyone hear him? Oh, no. Okay, unmute again. Let's try it again. While Sinju's dealing with that. How about Simon? Simon, where are you from? I don't know, maybe people are having audio problems. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, great.
Sorry about it. My microphone disappeared for guys. Yes, I'm from New York.
Oh, great. How did you hear about this?
Your previous cohort, Dr. Sri, Vinith, Dr. Malini, they all
Great.
recommended. Yes.
Excellent. Okay, well, welcome.
Thank you.
How about Peter? Peter, where are you from?
I am a UCSF student, so right in the Bay Area.
Excellent. Okay, what level student are you? PhD?
I'm PhD. I'm starting my 6th year, so about to finish up.
Great. And what do you study?
Chemical biology. I mostly do immuno-oncology stuff.
Cool. Okay, great. Welcome. Stefano, where are you from?
Hey, I'm actually in the Bay Area as well. I'm a resident and clinical fellow at UCSF in occupational environmental medicine and clinical informatics.
Fantastic. Great. Welcome. It's nice to see
you.
UCSF people here. Vinith, I know where you're from. Say hello and tell people about your experience.
Hi, Stephanie. Hi, everyone. My name is Vinith Johnson, and I am here in our very own beautiful San Francisco. I work as an engineer. I am an alumni of the first cohort of the Global Entrepreneurship course. And I have the I share the same sentiments with as Mark and Anil in terms of, I think I just met an amazing bunch of people with such varied backgrounds that there was so much for me to just, apart from just the course material, but then just talking to them and having friendships with them, that I learned so much. So definitely take advantage of the network this course gives you, because it's helped me a lot.
Great. Thanks for sharing that. Eveline, will you say hello?
Hi there, I'm Evelyn. I'm also in London, Canada.
Oh, great. Wow, there are a whole bunch of you.
Yes, yes.
Cool. Okay. How about Olumide? I'm not saying that right. You could help me and say it correctly. Olumide?
Lumide, so you got it close the first time.
Ah, okay. Where are you from, Olumide?
I'm also from London.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, this is going to be an all Canadian class. I'm going to stop asking. Okay, well, let's move on. I mean, it's great to get to meet some of you this way, and we'll have more time afterwards. But I wanted to introduce our guest alumna, Malini Singh. Malini has a whole bunch of degrees, and she really liked this class and thought it made a difference in the way that she is looking at her job, her life, whatever. I'll let her tell you about it. She has an important administrative job at our UCSF affiliated hospital, the Zuckerberg San Francisco General. She is also UCSF faculty, and she practices medicine, emergency medicine. So Malini, I'm going to turn this over to you to just share what your experience has been like.
Sure. Thank you, Stephanie. Hi, everybody. This is such a fabulous group. I'm just looking around and I already know Anil, I know Mark, I know Sinju, I know Vineeth. This is how small the world really is. So this is, and to make the world even smaller for all you Canadians, I'm also a Canadian. So this
right, I didn't know that.
Tour de force. I was born in Winnipeg, and those Canadians know what an awful place that is. That's why I'm no longer in Winnipeg. Grew up in Vancouver, BC. And then I came to the US when I was a teenager. So a lot of my secondary and high school education and my college medical school training all happened in the US. So I've spent most of my life now in the US, but I have extremely fond memories of Canada. And I still find the Canadians to be the nicest, most pleasant people on earth. So this is great. It was a huge showing of Canadians. So happy to see all of you. Okay, so this is what happened to me. A little bit about me before I go into a little bit about the course and how it's made my life a little bit more different than before I took the course. So I did most of my training on the East Coast. I am an emergency medicine physician here in San Francisco. I work at a level 1 trauma hospital. My role primarily now is taking care of patients, and also as an administrator, I'm also the medical director and vice chief, as Stephanie mentioned. So I do have to do a lot of operations work as well. So while I was in the East Coast, I got my master's in public health. My goal was to look into healthcare management, network, be involved in systems, health policy. And as I got more ingrained in my role as a manager and administrator and working with operations and flow, I decided to get an MBA at UC Berkeley Haas School of Business. And I had gotten that over the last 2 years because I wanted to hone in on finance and strategy. That was what was missing from a medical school career. I don't know, we don't have a lot of time here for me to ask all of you what your specific role in entrepreneurship is, but if you are, and I've heard a couple of you are in medicine and a couple of you are medical students. I know Peter's a PhD and Stefano mentioned he's a resident in training as well. If you're in academia and medicine, you have very little exposure to entrepreneurism, very little. In fact, medicine is a very hierarchical, sort of like a one-way street. Once you're in it, you're sucked in and it's a one-way track. And the academic career is sort of traditional, conservative, and in my opinion, a little old school. And the only reason why I knew how old school medical school and being in medicine was when I went to business school. And it was in business school that I took a 1-week course in entrepreneurism. And it was a week with Silicon Valley startups when I realized that the really true way to change the world is through innovation. And so for me, that was my inspiration. So when I finished my business degree in January of 2020, my goal was to really explore this world of startups and talk to entrepreneurs and learn about how is it that I can leverage my skill set as a provider and help make changes in my ecosystem. But then something called COVID hit in March. We were sheltering in place and my life changed forever. So my life was just surrounded by COVID operations. What did we do about PPE? And all of a sudden, things like supply chain became like something I knew to know all too well. So that was my life starting in March in 2020. I know Peter and Stefano probably share that same experience. Our life really changed. And as being an emergency medicine physician, I was frontline. So my life never stopped. It was like from day one, we were there, sort of not really sure like how this thing worked and what we were doing. So that was a big world of an unknown for me. Stephanie's course came out on my newsfeed about global entrepreneurship. And the reason why it attracted my attention was, number one, I had already had an interest in startup and entrepreneurial stuff. And I really, really wanted to get back into learning about that world in a way that I wanted to back in March, before COVID hit. So for me, that was my let me go back in and learn a little bit about what I can is this something that I really want to delve into? So I'll tell you, my foray into Stephanie's course had already been a little inspired by my one week in business school and listening to entrepreneurs and talking to startup people and learning about the world really triggered my interest. So when I took her course, I'll tell you, my biggest takeaway from the course are the speakers. And I'm hoping that Anil and Mark agree with me and Vineet agree with me. These speakers that Stephanie has, these are the cream of the crop. And what I really find remarkable about the speakers is they spend their precious time. These are very, very highly important, busy people. These are the people making decisions of what to fund and who they want to take on as a partner. These are very busy, important people. And I was so impressed with the lineup Stephanie was able to get. And I looked at the lineup that she has for this year, and there are some remarkable speakers. And so my biggest takeaway from the class was the value of people spreading their knowledge about their experience and what they do. And they were so willing to do that. Stephanie must have a very special relationship with these people that they spent on orders of an hour or more just talking to us, their experience, and they gave it truth, real value. And they made themselves available as mentors to talk to us later. They were available for us to reach out to them if we had any questions. That is the kind of network that you're just not going to get in a lot of places. And let's face it, with COVID, we're not traveling a whole lot outside of Mark, who gets to go to Paris next week. And a lot of us are not really traveling and meeting and conferencing and getting to know people. This is it, you guys, and this might be our new world for a while. And so I would say the big advantage of something like this is you get to meet peers who are different levels of their career and startup lives, entrepreneurial lives, who are going to give you something you need when you need it. And that was what I found in my peer group, where I learned a lot. That's how I met Mark. I learned a lot about what he does. And he shared with me how I could help him. And that's how it works, right? You talk to people who tell you what they do, what they're looking for, and you might just have that less skill set that you can leverage. And all of a sudden your network just grew by 1x, 2x, 3x, 10x, 100x, just by talking in a class, a sector forum, a peer forum. So the value of the class is who you are going to meet. Your people, your colleagues, your classmates right now, that's the value. And that's the value that I took away from the class as well. Okay, and the nitty gritty that Stephanie talked about what you're gonna learn. I had a business degree, but I'm not a business person. I just learned the subject of business. But what I learned from Stephanie's speakers were the real nuts and bolts from people in the real world about how do you raise money? Who should you take money from? How do you start a business? How do you protect your work? What does IP do? When do you need an IP? How do you understand that the biological life cycle of an FDA approval? These are all things that you're just not going to know, and you need to know who to ask. Because if you're in that stage of a company, who do I want to partner with? What do I do about forming an LLC? What legal protections do I have? What do I do now? What do I do now? What do I do now? These are specialists you're going to need at every stage of your build and your company, whatever it is you want to do. You need somebody to help you at each stage. So this is what I found the speakers do, is you will have a key group of people you can tap into. And if you say, I was in Stephanie's class, they're going to give you the time. And they're going to talk to you, and they're going to help you. So that is one big thing, the key value of it is the people, the network, the leveraging of skill sets, the people who are good at what they do, who are going to be available for you. And that's a huge start. No matter where you are in your trajectory of starting a company, interested in it, already have a couple of companies, looking to fund, looking to invest, whoever you guys are, whatever stage you are, you need to know somebody to help you to get to the next level. And that's, I think, why things like this are very valuable. The other thing is that listening to the entrepreneur's story is extremely inspiring. So inspiring. I know that Sinju and Beneath, these are people that I listen to their stories of their products and how they got there and what they're doing to get to the next stage. And I'm so inspired by not only their sheer passion, their vision, but they are willing to put it all out there, and they know they're going to fail. And that's part of the cycle of getting better. But when you fail, you have to know how to do it differently the next time so you succeed. You just can't be doing the same thing over and over again. And that's what I think is really valuable about entrepreneurship, is that it's a constant cycle of innovation, getting better, iterating, and learning what you need to know to get to the next level. And that's just something you have to learn through experience. You can't read that. You can't learn that from a book. And so I think that was very valuable. The other thought I had about what the key takeaways from all of this was really about understanding the value of what you bring to the table and knowing what you bring to the table, but also knowing what you need. So having a good team. I'm a physician and we work in teams all the time, but there's something very individualistic about physicians and providers and how they work. When I went to business school, I learned the value of a team. And what you learn is that you can't do it all, but you need to know who you need to have on your team to do it all. And I think that is another value of what I learned through Stephanie's class and talking to people. Every entrepreneur that you listen to in her class is going to tell you a story of someone they knew that helped them to get to the next step, and who then they later had to resource off to get some information to get to the next step. They all needed somebody. We all need somebody at some point. Who is it going to be? Who are you going to call? And how do you know when you need somebody? So that was a really valuable skill for me. So what am I doing now? So I took Stephanie's class last fall. We got done in December. So we're now in August 2021. We're still in COVID. My life hasn't changed a whole lot as a doctor, except I'm getting sick of these surges. I really am getting sick of these surges and all these variants. But how my life has changed is I really have worked inside my department and helping to develop an innovation care center. So I'm part of the UCSF Care Innovation group. This is started by one of my colleagues. What we do is we get medical students and residents and attendings and design thinkers to actually create virtual and digital platforms to help improve patient care. So this can be about having a DEI dashboard to look at, are we delivering care that's equitable to our patients? A patient satisfaction, are patients happy with our care? We've gotten funding to create a service line to help take better care of geriatric patients. So we actually secured about a $4.5 million grant that'll cover us for 3 years to really help develop ways that we can make the patient care experience better in the emergency department. Now, I may not be developing the next app, and I don't think that my colleague or my patient atmosphere is the group that's going to use my next app. But I know if I wanted to develop an app, or if I wanted to get involved in digital healthcare, which I think is the next big thing too, I know who I need to call. And that's the most important thing, is when you get inspired and you have a vision and you see an opportunity to make something better, you know when you need to reach out and call somebody to help. The last thing I'll say is I'm so happy that Steve Blank is going to be teaching your section on customer discovery and journey. Whatever you do, there's nothing more important to discovering what the root problem is you're trying to solve. Okay, this is the most important thing about starting a company. You have to know what it is that you're trying to solve. Many entrepreneurs run away with this fantastic idea of what they want to do, but they haven't tested it through customer journey and discovery about, is this what the customers want? Is this what we need for the customers? Is this going to help solve the problem that I'm trying to fix? So this is what I think Steve Blank's whole approach to learning about what the customers want is essential. And you're going to get that in the course. I am so indebted to learning about the customer journey. I think that's the most valuable thing that we do. Every project we do here, everything we think about, any A3 that we put together to talk about a problem, we have to talk to the customer. For me, that's the patient. What do they want? How do we make it better? How do we improve their outcomes? How do we reduce risks and errors? For me, that's my world, and it starts with the customer. And so a lot of the thinking that you're going to get from this class, you're going to apply to a lot of different industries, no matter what you do, no matter how you do it. But the customer journey experience has to be number one. This is going to be the ounce of prevention that's going to be worth the pound of gold, right? This is where you're going to solve, think of where you put all your money and your time in developing. And so you then 5-10 steps down the road, you then realize, you know what, I did the wrong thing. I'm on the wrong track. And then to go back and to develop something again from the beginning is very, very expensive. So all I can say is network, the culture, the investment in your time in developing networks with people who are going to get you to where you need to be, being open with your group, sharing your ideas, because these people are going to be people that might help you down the line. And please, please really, really take Steve's lessons to heart in anything you do. You have to learn from your customer. This is what's going to save you so much down the line. So I'm going to leave with that because I want to leave time for questions, but I am so excited to see so many people interested in taking this class. And I'm telling you, Stephanie's not paying me to say this. I'm telling you this because I am so inspired by what I learned from the class. But I tell you, the value are the 4 people that I've met who are now on this call that I know that down the line that'll turn to 16, 50, 100, 200 people eventually that are going to just grow my ecosystem and network that'll help me get to the next step. So I hope for anything that will be the value added for you in taking a class like this. And with that, I'm open to any questions people have for Stephanie, me, or anyone else on the call.
That's fantastic, Malini. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing this. I'll tell one story while people are thinking of what they want to ask, which is in Malini's cohort, there was a woman who did healthcare policy. She was based in Washington, D.C. She actually was part of writing the electronic health record policies. And she said she had never spoken to a clinician before she met Malini. I mean, is that amazing? She learned so much. She's like, wow, I wish I'd known her 10 years ago when I was writing this stuff. So, you know, the connections are just pretty fantastic. So questions, who wants to ask a question? No questions.
Did the Canadians get a group discount?
Yeah, just no discounts for anyone. Sorry, guys. We're a business.
I'll make a comment. That was awesome, Malini. That was great, kind of tying in your background, your business experience, and so forth. And I thought of a good point she made when I took the class was we'd have a CEO of a startup biotech company, and then we'd have Carl Handelsman, Series A investor, kind of give the counterpoint, you know, in a study group or at another time, and kind of the counterpoint between raising money, how difficult that is, and the investor saying why they'd pass on that deal or how they'd structure the deal, or, you know, it's a negotiation at the end of the day, and you hear that. I mean, these are top tier VC investors that she has to the calls.
Yeah, it makes such a difference to actually have a conversation with someone and who, because it's in a learning setting rather than a transaction, they'll actually tell you what goes through their minds and how they think about things. And that's a degree of openness you don't get when you're out looking for money. You're lucky if you get any feedback at all. Yeah.
One other quick point, everybody that was an instructor or a mentor came in and so forth, I think almost everybody I followed up with and connected on LinkedIn. So that really helped the network build it. Some people responded and questions I had and so forth. So, you know, just follow up with people on LinkedIn. They're happy to connect too.
And I just want to pick up on one of the points Malini made, which is the people who come and they're very senior people, busy senior people. Why do they do this? You know, they do this because this is how they feel they can, the phrase we use here in Silicon Valley is pay it forward. That, you know, people were good to them sometime in their career. Now they're not looking for anything back. They just want to help somebody else. And because we're UCSF, People have really good feelings toward the university. Many people have had personal experiences with it clinically, or they just know about the research that we're doing. And it's a contribution to people who might want to start a company. And you can feel like, maybe you're doing something that has some impact on the world, because maybe someone in this class is going to start a company and I'll have helped them in some little way. So, Anil, do you want to say a couple of words? And Anil Kumar has been in both cohorts. He liked it so much, he took it twice. And now he is, I don't know what to call you, Anil. You're certainly far more than a TA, but for the purposes of here, I guess we'll say you're a TA, and he's also the CEO of his own company. Anil, go ahead.
Thanks, Stephanie. A lot of things are already being said, but one part that really was important for me was the sector forums. You have about 15, 20 people brainstorming, and these very experienced people actually giving you feedback on those things. I think that's very, very valuable. It's literally like sitting with those people for an hour every week, and you get to do that for almost 8 or 10 weeks. So that was very helpful for me specifically. And Vinit talked about that, Malini and Mark talked about that. We actually continued our discussions after the class. We regularly meet on Fridays and bring ideas, share them, and that network actually still continues. So it's been really valuable. And then Stephanie, I think Wen had a question.
Please go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't have a question. I just wanted to thank Malini for a very passionate speech. And a lot of, I'm a clinician as well, and I have been building products in the last more than 12 years. And before that, I was super nurse who was clinical informaticist for the other 10 years. So I can totally feel that, we kind of being enclosed in a way that this is a clinical setting, hospital setting. We don't necessarily think about how can we turn our ideas, innovation into something that maybe can be standardized, industrialized, and spread that globally, hopefully. And this is the reason why I want to come here to learn. Being really an old person now, but I want to learn new things.
No, you're not. Where are you? What geography are you in?
I work in Silicon Valley. I actually was with Google Health and Facebook. I mean, though my bosses are all 20 years younger than me, they had no healthcare experience. And so now I actually work in a diagnostic company, but building a new platform to how to do the customer care. Anyway, I live in Silicon Valley, San Francisco, and Scottsdale, Arizona. I just visited Europe.
Great. I'll help you join the class. I'm sure you could contribute a lot. And just, even just talking to some of you tonight, seeing where you're from and so on, I know that if you can join, this is going to just add to this very wonderful, diverse class, and you're all professionals, and you all come from a different point of view, and I think it's wonderful to be able to share all that. So we're just at the hour. I want to first start by thanking Malini for a wonderful, I had no idea what you were going to say, Malini, and it's just so compelling. I'm so pleased that that's how you feel. And Malini is a very senior person in my world at UCSF, and I'm just delighted that you got so much out of it. I want to thank everyone else who's spoken for coming tonight. I hope you'll join the class. I will stick around for a few minutes if you have questions and just want to hang out or just want to get to meet each other. Please do that. I'll release Malini so that she can go have dinner after her clinical her clinical time that she just spent today. And again, thank you all for coming, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Malini. Thank you, Stephanie.